Good evening, this is the Oscar expert here, and it is time to review The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent. The film is directed by Tom Gormican, and it stars Nicolas Cage as a narcissistic, cash-strapped version of himself who, out of desperation, makes a paid appearance at a billionaire's birthday party. The two surprisingly hit it off, but then Cage finds that this man may not be who he says he is. I think the trailer may spoil more than that, but I think that's all you need to know. It's a bit of an action, crime comedy, bit of a buddy comedy, but the most novel thing about this movie is, of course, the Nicolas Cage-ness of it all. He gives a really fun performance here, not really playing himself in the sort of like bearing his soul and we get to see the real Nick Cage kind of thing. It's a very fictionalized version of him who just happens to have the same back catalog. The character is cartoonishly egotistical, but Nicolas Cage is able to let some sincerity shine through. And you get some of those nice over-the-top Nicolas Cage shouting moments, which you gotta have at least once or twice in a movie like this. And he also has great chemistry with Pedro Pascal, who is great here. His character has a really sweet, endearing connection with Nicolas Cage. Their bond is very childish. Pedro Pascal is a little bit of a teddy bear in this role. Very easy character to like. You look into his eyes and you're like, that man, that Javi is a real sweetie. I also thought Sharon Horgan, who plays Nick Cage's wife in the movie, had some standout moments too. Unfortunately, I don't think the movie gave Tiffany Haddish enough to do. Not that she doesn't have enough screen time, her character just doesn't really make that many jokes, and I think her talents aren't utilized that well. The performances overall are my favorite part of the movie. I think they really strike that tone of not taking itself too seriously, being playful, and I think they are kind of what saves this movie in a way. Because overall, I didn't think the movie was that funny. They made some good Nick Cage jokes. They made some good movie jokes. But this movie did not have the laughs per minute that I was expecting. I would say most of the laughs for me were chuckles. And there were maybe a couple where if you could audibly hear me making noise. This just wasn't the kind of comedy like Superbad or Palm Springs, where you can tell that the material was written by a really funny person who just knows comedy, is great at making jokes. The sense of humor felt like any other studio action comedy crime film. I just didn't really get that much of a sense of personality from the humor here. The jokes don't really miss. It's just that they don't land that hard for me. As is the case with kind of a lot of comedies, I thought it was funnier in the beginning. I liked when the jokes were more targeted at either Nicolas Cage's character's ego or when the humor was playing off of two characters' chemistry. But as the film goes on and indulges in more action and more of the crime plot, I found that there were only rare attempts at comedy amidst poorly shot action with no style or flavor at all. Like somebody backs up really quick, like whoa, and then runs somebody over, or somebody falls. The humor seems like it was in the situation overall being lightly funny, but I was kind of sitting there thinking you have Nicolas Cage playing Nicolas Cage, and I don't feel like you're utilizing him enough towards the end. I mean, it definitely utilizes Nick Cage being Nick Cage for at least half the movie. It's just towards the end, I was like, where is this? The crime cartel action plot is as generic and boring as you'd get in any mediocre action comedy movie. If the writing was more clever, I feel like these characters could have just shot the shit and I would have enjoyed it and I would have ate it up. You don't need all this plot junk. I would have been cool if the movie went even more over the top with the action or with the crazy sequence of events, but it pretty much plays out in an unexpected way. And I have to mention, I mean, this movie is 100% on Rotten Tomatoes. Everybody's having a blast with this movie. So if you're hearing all that hype and then you hop on this review, you're gonna be like, what the hell is he talking about? Why did I just not have fun with the movie? What's wrong with me? I'm not gonna tell you that you're gonna have my opinion on this. You will probably think the movie's fun, and I think some are going to defend the third act of this movie and say oh, but it's self-aware. The movie kind of states oh, the movies that start out talky comedies and then turn into blockbuster action. Just because the movie says it and then does it, I don't think that excuses anything at all if it's not that enjoyable when it does it. As far as the Nick Cage references go, they're fun. There are probably a lot that I didn't pick up on because I haven't seen the most Nicolas Cage movies. If you're even more well-versed in the Nicolas Cage filmography, you're probably going to get even more references, but it wasn't like I felt like I was missing out on anything. I don't think this is a bad movie though. I think it does a nice job not taking itself too seriously. Though there are a lot of movies that get praised for like not taking themselves too seriously. It's not that novel for a movie to do it at this point. I will also say that the final shot was heartfelt, so I would give it props for that. And you know, the movie does sort of inherently feel like a celebration of Nick Cage films, how he has some roles to satisfy his ego in being like a serious actor, and then he has goofy roles and action roles that people just think are kind of stupid and funny. And the movie sort of celebrates all of it. But overall, I would say this movie felt like an average crime comedy action thing, but elevated by just the unique premise of Nicolas Cage playing Nicolas Cage, and with the chemistry between the actors. Again, Pedro Pascal and Nick Cage, that was my favorite part of the movie. It's fine. I'm not on the hype train for it, so sorry. Not gonna tell you not to see it, because you're probably gonna like it more than me, but I'm giving it a 6 out of 10. Thank you for watching. Thank you for subscribing. Are you playing a version of yourself?